What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about what's next for the Silent Hill 2 remake, right? So we got a couple days. We've processed, I think that's probably the right word, right? We've processed the state of play, and, we definitely had some things to say about it. I made that video a few days ago, but now I want to talk about, okay, well, what comes now, as well as I do want to talk about one kind of, I guess, carryover thing or holdover thing, whichever phrase is right, from that event. So there's actually a rumor from Dusk Golem, which I know people are very like 50-50 on the guy, and I actually do trust him more than I don't. He gets more things right than he doesn't, but there's actually a pretty interesting tidbit about what they showed for Silent Hill 2, which he says is that the build that it was, okay, that's very important. The build that they showed at this state of play was actually from May of 2023, so a full year ago. So they were showing a version of the game that is a year old. Now, that is what he said. I do want to kind of start with this conversation because, it's something that I think a lot of people are still talking about. Again, the reception of what they showed us. I want to believe that because there would be a lot of signs for hope, I think, right, if that's true. And what does that mean for, I guess, those that don't know? So obviously there's different versions of the game, different builds, and when you play a tech test or when you play a closed beta, open beta, alpha, whatever, you might not be playing the version of the game that the developers have, say, yesterday, right? If you play a game now that comes out 3 months from now, it might not be the actual version the game is today. It might be a version of the game 3, 4, 5 months ago. And the game might actually be much improved from then to today. So if that is true, they showed a version that's a year old, which means the odds of it being much improved are pretty high, at least in terms of like bugs and it just overall kind of polish. Now, there's two, I would say, kind of major weaknesses with it. Number one, and probably the most glaring that you might say out loud, well, why would they show the version that's and I've seen that online, right? When I saw the rumor of Duscom saying this, the number one response, besides like calling into question, whether you believe him or not, the number one response is, well, why would they do that? And the simple answer might be Konami. The simple answer might be they're Konami, so this is kind of what they do, right? Kind of make really weird decisions from time to time. And you know what? I actually would buy that. I would try to take the obvious approach of it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. If you told me that this version was from like 3, 4, 5 months ago, okay, I'd believe it, right? And I guess, okay, well, May to now, it's not entirely a year. So if you're rounding, you round up. If you told me this was from like the fall, this is like a September, October build, I think that's kind of believable. But to tell me that it's almost a year old and for some reason they decided to do that. Now, for trailers, right? For trailers for these state of plays, they could be done many, many moons ago, okay? They come up with this stuff, right? They have a team that puts together like promotional stuff. Different developers hire for this stuff, right? So they hire, they put together a trailer, and they could submit it to Sony. They could have submitted it to Sony, 2, 3, 4 months ago, for all we know. You know what I mean? So it doesn't have to have just been like this last month, and I don't think it would have been that way anyway, right? But to say it was a year ago, I'm not so sure. So that one is definitely something that's more up in the air. And then I guess the other potential like weakness with that theory, or the idea that, hey, well, this is like a year old, well, they can't really get feedback from us if it's a year old. They've had this time to polish it. If it's like a major element that we have a problem with from what we saw at the state of play, odds are they wouldn't be fixing it then. You know what I mean? So again, that's another, I'd say, weakness to this whole thing, because I know one of the main things people have said to try to give something to Bloober Team, right, to try to make it, a better situation out of all this is, well, hey, this could be feedback time. You know what I mean? And I think that is true. I think there is a part of that where, hey, they probably want to hear feedback. If there's something that we really think is a problem, a really big issue, now is the time to say something, because maybe they can do something with it. But if the build they showed, or if that version is a year old, well, odds are they have improved it, but we don't know how they've improved it, so we can't really judge it. So then if we're complaining to them or complaining online, well, are they going to take us more seriously, less seriously? Because they may have, in their minds, already fixed the issue, and we wouldn't know that. But like I said, generally, I trust Dust Golem way more than I don't trust him. He's gotten a lot of stuff right for Silent Hill. He's gotten stuff right for Resident Evil. He is pretty good in that sector, of the internet. But this one, I don't know. This feels just kind of off to me, the overall thing. So then, to the rest of the video, well, what happens next? I guess a lot of waiting. I think as the dust has settled, one thing that has like stuck with everybody is like, not giving a date, not giving any idea of when this game is coming out is definitely troublesome. This has been a game that's been in the works for a while. They've given us very mixed signals as to when the game is coming. Not even necessarily that, when the game's coming out, but like the progress. It sounded for a long, long time like this game was right around the corner. And there was the voice actor even said, I think he talked about it coming out in the first half of the year. Like, all signs kind of pointed to that if you just listen to what like these people were saying, but then you see it and it looked rough around the edges, and they're going to need more time for that. And then they didn't say anything. All they said was it was in development, very much making it seem like late this year at the earliest, if not longer. Now, as people did point out, in the PlayStation blog where they talked about games coming out in 2024, Silent Hill was on that list. Same thing for Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade was also on that list, and Stellar Blade comes out late April. So I think this game comes out this year. I think this game probably is a fall game. Maybe they try to put it around Halloween or just October in general. And is that enough time, to get everything in line? Hopefully it is. But where we're at now, I do kind of want to paint, somewhat of a picture, at least my predictions for you guys right now. So a game like this, if it comes out in the fall, I do expect them to go silent. Not to, no pun intended, but to go dark, right? No communication. Now, Konami, like certain branches of Konami on Twitter, are tweeting, like they are kind of active for the short message and for this game. So I'd imagine we don't see anything for quite a while. And if I were to do this, or if I were to think at least how Sony's going to do this, if they do a showcase in May or June, right, like an E3 replacement kind of thing, I think you would show Silent Hill again there. Or maybe you even wait for a Silent Hill transmission, as we've talked about so many times. But I guess, again, the timeline that I'm trying to put together, I think you're not going to get anything for quite a bit. And by quite a bit, I guess I mean like 2-3 months. And I guess it depends on you if that's actually a long time. It might not be. Time flies. Time flies when you're having fun. But no, I think May or June, we might see something more. And that's, you got to give the date. You got to give the date there. Maybe you show it more uncut, where it's not perfectly cut. I'm literally the opposite of cut, right? Not put together perfectly. Show us some raw footage of just going around an area, beating up some enemies, seeing how that's progressed, right? You do that, you give a date, and then as you lead in, you have all the previews and review codes and all that jazz leading into the game releasing. That's kind of what I think. I think we're not going to see anything for a while, which is it's definitely normal, okay? It's absolutely the way it normally goes. But because of how they left it, it's not going to look good. You know what I mean? Like, I do absolutely understand that they're leaving you basically on a cliffhanger that's not like a great cliffhanger, right? So it's going to make people more upset. But this is normal. It's absolutely normal. So I wouldn't expect anything from them for several months. I doubt people are going to be happy with that, and you don't have to be. You really don't have to be happy about it, but I think that's kind of the situation. So let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If anything happens with this game, of course, I'll be covering it. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I hope to see you all on the next one.